But even just like going to the club or like going to some space where there are a limited number of people, where you go even a few times and you become a regular and you are perceived in the way that you want to be perceived. Like, you're known to be the person who inhabits the space, but people don't know your whole biography. They don't know the things about you that you don't want them to know. There's something very fun about that kind of limited intimacy.
Welcome back to Off Christopher Street, the podcast where we look into the archives of the magazine Christopher Street as a window onto the gay life of the past and the gay discourse of the present. I'm David Sessions, and I'm joined once again by my co-host and fellow historian, Blake Smith. In this episode, we talk about how going out became a subject of fascination and cultural punditry for gay novelists and journalists in New York in the late 1970s. We discuss how, in their work, we can already see taking shape some of the binaries that are still with us today in terms of how gays think about the quote-unquote gay scene and their identities and personal lives. On the one hand, at least in practice, the fun of going out is widely understood and enjoyed. But on the other hand, there's a perpetual unease about it, as if going out or going out too much, having every night fever, as Christopher Street put it in a 1978 cover story, might be incompatible with some imagined fuller or more wholesome life. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to make sure you get future episodes. And if you feel so moved, to leave us a rating or a review, which helps other people find out about us. You can also subscribe to our Substack at christopherstreetmag.substack.com to get more of our commentary that accompanies the episode and explore more content from the magazine at christopherstreetmag.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we hope you enjoy our conversation about Every Night Fever.
David, what drew you to this essay, Every Night Fever, which coincidentally, this is the cover story of the first issue of Christopher Street that I bought a couple of years ago, which set me off on this whole journey of collecting them and then wanting to write a book about this scene. So yeah, what drew you to this?
I saw the cover of this one before I had it. It was not the first one I ever got, but it was one I was kind of looking for. I guess because it was like in the period that I was interested in. By the way, this is the May 1978 cover story of Christopher Street called Every Night Fever. It's got how would you describe this guy on the cover? Is that a clone?
Is it a clone? So, right, one thing that I love is like there's all of this very strong anti-clone discourse that remembers him as being super macho. To me, this guy is like a faggot, right?
Right.
But probably at the time, like he's got, like the button-down shirt. Does he have a mustache?
He has a mustache. He's got a flannel shirt tucked into jeans. He's smoking a cigarette and holding a beer. I think like the flannel shirt and jeans. Like I think that's the
Listeners
clone.
Can't tell, but I'm wearing a flannel shirt. So flannel is really not doing anything for you masculinity-wise.
We should probably define what a clone is for people who may not have heard that before.
Do you want to define a clone?
A clone was, I'm not sure the timing exactly. I think this would have been mid-70s. Mid to late 70s. It was the uniform of the masked gays. Like when, after Stonewall, there's kind of a turn toward like a gay masculinity. And I think it starts in the Castro in the gay neighborhood of San Francisco and spreads to the Village in New York. And the kind of stereotype of the time is like all the guys are wearing like this identical outfit, like these kind of ratty jeans and work boots and flannel shirts, and they're cruising handkerchiefs in the back pocket, which is probably a little exaggerated. And then there comes to be lots of discourse in the late 70s about this masculine turn, and there are people who are not, just like today, who are not happy about it.
Right. I mean, if we were to count up all of the non-scene gays, the gays who are not like other gays, we end up with like 99% of the gay population. But yeah, so this guy is sort of cloney or clone adjacent, and he's like a bit masked, and he's like leaning against a wall. So he's like come to the bar or club to cruise. He's there by himself.
So we can't really see much context from the photo. And clones are not exactly, they're not really mentioned in the story. They're not really the subject. I'm sure we'll find one to talk about. But this is the cover story is May 1978. So this is less than 6 months after Saturday Night Fever comes out in December 1977. It's a hit is like understatement. It is a full-blown cultural phenomenon. It's in theaters for months and months. Multiple songs from the soundtrack are like top of the charts. So that's the context. Of course, the article mentions, John Travolta in like the second paragraph. Although I guess Saturday Night Fever is kind of like the mainstream or like straight coming out of disco, whereas these guys have been doing this for several years at this
Right.
point.
I'm sure there was a literature on this, like the heterosexualization of disco in the movie Saturday Night Fever, which you had sent me the link to, is based on this New York article from like 77 or 76, where a journalist basically makes up the stories of these
Right.
like, working class New Jersey or like outer boroughs kids who are coming to Manhattan to party in the discos to make themselves beautiful. Yeah, the article and then the movie invent this world of heterosexual disco. Not that there weren't dance clubs in New York in the 70s where heterosexual people could dance, but like this scene as represented in the original Saturday Night Fever New York article and movie is like pristinely non-gay in a way that has very little relationship to
Yeah, exactly.
the world of disco.
Although the movie itself, like, I watched like the first half hour of it the other day. Like, even compared to this guy on the cover of Christopher Street, John Travolta is so faggy. Like his outfits, he's wearing these
He's an
polyester
Italian American
flower-covered
man,
He's
he's a
and
rooster.
he's there. It's extremely. I saw like just in the first half hour they harass some gay boys.
The movie is astoundingly gritty. So yeah, one remembers the like immaculate coiffure and the dancing, but there's a rape, there's violence.
That's what I was gonna say. Is like it's so even the camera, like it's so homoerotic, like the way that with the camera just like in this opening, set pieces that kind of establishing him and his like obsession with his appearance and going to disco, like. He's just staring at himself in the mirror. He's like blow drying his hair, and the camera is just kind of like panning across his body, like he's like getting up and adjusting his dick, and it like shows all of that.
Okay, you're making me feel like I need to rewatch this because that sounds hot. I mean, John Travolta, whenever you're ready, we know it's okay. We're waiting.
Yeah, it might have been the only movie ever where John Travolta was hot in, but
he's hot in Grease.
Okay, it's been a while since I've seen
Battlestar Galactica, been a phenomenon. Okay, but so there's the original Saturday Night Fever essay movie, and then Michael Musto, who is all of 22 or 23.
23, yeah.
This is surely one of his first published pieces, if not his first.
Yeah, and Michael Musto I'm not talking about him like he's some person you should know. Like I had no idea who he was before I read the story, but he was actually a fairly famous nightlife writer. He was very young when he wrote this story, but he went on to write for The Village Voice. He was at, a fixture at Studio 54. He was like kind of like one of these Saturday Night Fever characters where he's like an outer borough kid from New York, and he went to Columbia, so it's kind of creeping into the world of nightlife. He's still alive. She's still
alive.
Still seems like a really cool person.
I think I am aware of Michael Musto from like him being a talking head on VH1 shows, like I Love the 80s back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And
really?
I have more recently read him. I've been reading through like Out magazine in the 90s, 2000s, and he always has like, dumb garbage in that. I have never read, there's like the selected works. So it may be that there's a sort of corpus that really bears paying attention to.
Yeah, there's several books. Yeah, it seems kind of Sex and the City-ish, like Avant la Lettre.
Oh yeah, he looks like the gay friend from Sex and the City also. Like I don't know if he's actually a small person, but he seems like he has a big head and a small body.
But anyway, let's talk about like what's in this article. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like, how would we describe the genre? He's like
So I've actually I've been looking for a name of the thing because the genre is still with us, like us, the world of media, but particularly homosexuals, where you like name / constitute a social phenomenon that maybe exists and maybe doesn't exist. And then you get a bunch of people who are like friends or acquaintances of yours to affirm and then give their opinions about this phenomenon. So like there was this thing last year, which like, you had thoughts about, which was like have we reached peak gay sluttiness? Like everyone is having sex. That's the thesis right now. Everyone is having sex right now. And that's different from the past. And so this Michael Musto 1978 essay, the thesis is everyone is going out now all the time. Like if straight people are going out on Saturday night, going to the disco, gay people are going out all the time. Did you watch The Nutty Professor, the Eddie Murphy version?
No.
It's a great film. So the original Nutty Professor with, oh my God, Jerry Lewis. That's a wonderful film, beautiful Technicolor. And the 90s Nutty Professor with Eddie Murphy is a great, Eddie Murphy at one point plays in various disguises all 6 or 7 members of a family. It's wonderful. And there's a scene where they go to a comedy club and Dave Chappelle plays a hack comic whose routine is women be shopping. Women be shopping, women be shopping. You cannot stop a woman from shopping. I feel like a lot of this essay is very like people are going out, like these faggots are going out all the time. The gays are fucking, gays are going out. These are perennial incitations to discourse. And once we have just like, we don't have to like get any numbers. We don't have to somehow prove empirically that this is the case, but it's the 70s. People are going out. We can just state that fact. And then how do people feel about that? There's some reaction.
Right. So I'm just going to read the paragraph where he sets up the intro of the article. John Travolta had something like it in Saturday Night Fever. He had to go to the disco every Saturday night. It was a physical release, a chance to meet with friends and get attention, to feel real in a thoroughly unreal environment. It was a fun, ego-building escape from his workaday life as a nobody. Take all of that and multiply it by 7 on the fanaticism scale, or better yet, imagine a week in which every night is Saturday, and you've got an idea of what Every Night Fever is all about. So it doesn't actually say that like it's a trend or everybody's doing it, just like some people are doing it.
Some people that we don't know how many. He names a few places and he gives, I guess these are fictitious names because then I Googled them, but he speaks with a few people who are somehow socially located. Like there's a Columbia student, there's someone with some like part-time psychotherapy job who are representative figures of this group of people who have to go out every night.
Did that register who that person is in the psychology part? One of the people who's quoted is working at it's called the Institute for Human Sexuality or something. And then it goes on to quote
Charles Silverstein, who is real.
Yes, yeah. So he's the co-editor or co-author with Edmund White of The Joy of Gay Sex and like a very famous gay therapist in that era.
Who thinks people are going out too much and just stay at home.
Compared to the New York article, that cover story that inspired Saturday Night Fever, it's in this very kind of flowery new journalism style. It's describing what the characters are thinking in their head minute by minute in a way that just can't possibly be real. So compared to that, and compared to like the also New York peak gay sluttiness article from last year, it's not very, those both have like very forceful kind of witty interpretive voices from the writer. This one doesn't so much. Like it kind of sets it up, but it's more like letting the people themselves speak. I think that's like,
there's at least 2 commendable things. I mean, the Stephen Phillips horse thing. Ooh. I say this also because like my boyfriend loves Celebrity Book Club, so I feel a sort of instinctive hostility toward Stephen Phillips horse. But 2 commendable things. Like, as you say, this essay I think gives more emphasis on like the perspectives of other people who are like somehow participating in or evaluating the phenomenon than on Musto himself. But in the quote you just read, actually I think Musto like hits pretty smartly and sympathetically on the pleasure of going out, right? That like, oh, you create some little context, some little scene in which you can appear to other people in this pleasurable way. And they see you as, unique and valuable. I mean, this is like yeah, this is like the fun of belonging to a group. This is the fun of going out with your friends. How to put it, like it seems clear even from that paragraph how Musto could be very well set up to be a chronicler of like the downtown club scene in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Be like
Yeah.
well attuned to what is the pleasure of putting on like the weird Boy George costume and having people look at you.
Yeah, and he says he did this W magazine did a profile of him a couple of years ago, and he says, I thought this quote, it's kind of like what he says here. He says, like, I loved the idea that it was an alternate universe, like fake lighting, fake music, fake universe, and yet it was real. It's something about it allowed you to tap into your inner celebrity. This idea of like this world in which it's very narrow. You just appear in a certain way that's different, and you can kind of make it up and make an art out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a shame that like even so much queer theory is just specifically about sex. So like Bersani, who like by the time he started writing about this was in his 60s. So I don't know how much he was actually cruising, but is, really interested in like cruising as like the model of queer subjectivity. But even just like going to the club or like going to some space like where there are a limited number of people, where you go even a few times and you become a regular and you are perceived in the way that you want to be perceived. Like, you're known to be the person who inhabits the space, but people don't know your whole biography. They don't know the things about you that you don't want them to know. There's something very fun about that kind of limited intimacy, or Bersani has this great phrase from a late essay, impersonal intimacy.
I feel like I've heard that somewhere.
He thinks of like specifically in the context of cruising, where it's like what we're going to say to each other and what we're going to do to each other is so formulaic. But he has this great moment in that essay where he's like, this is also the pleasure of small talk with your coworkers. And yeah, there's something really fun that like actually Musto gets in his kind of commentary in the essay, maybe more than the people being interviewed by him or the people that he quotes from. A lot of them are talking about like the search for love or a kind of restlessness. But yeah, it feels like he's really interested in this pleasure in belonging to this group, which is like not a group that demands your total identification with it, right? I mean, it's a group that you can like go to at night for a few hours and they like, see you one certain way. But this is a mistake that gay people make when we talk about like our chosen family. It's bad enough to have been born into one family, even worse to choose another. What's fun about these sort of spaces is you can appear the way you want to, which you don't get to do with your family because you like were a baby and grew up and they were watching you the whole time. Yes, like it feels like,
and you get to appear as much or little as you want to. I think that's important.
So Musto was kind of interested in like going out as this stage to be seen on, but then talking with people about this idea that some people are compelled to be going out all the time generates these really strong and interesting emotional reactions in a range of people. So, I mean, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about like what's actually in the article and what people say. We have what I would say is the fairly classic anti-going out position, which is that like it's meaningless. You're just trying to fill a hole in your life or run away from something. Chuck Silverstein, the psychologist that we mentioned before, he says, anyone who has to get out of the house every night is probably someone who can't withstand the feeling of being alone. I wouldn't want to differentiate between, this is amazing. I wouldn't want to differentiate between going to discos or bars and having dinner with friends. It's the same motivation, fear of being alone. So like even having dinner with friends is like just as bad as like going clubbing, just as empty and evading your...
I love, and at some point in the coming weeks, like Dan Oppenheimer and I will do like a podcast talking about the new Ava Illouz book and how much we love Ava Illouz. So she's like,
Still need to read that. Still need to read her.
She is so smart and wonderful. And she has some thoughtful appreciation of like why we need therapy in contemporary culture, like the functional work that it does. But she has a lot of sharp criticism of the ideal of therapy where, yeah, people like Silverstein can always say, you're doing X because you're unable to be alone, because you're not at peace with yourself. There's some like implicit ideal of the totally, like the person who can meet all of their own emotional needs.
Right. It's the total Yeah, I think this is a huge part of contemporary like therapy ideology, or especially, and maybe not even actual therapists, although I'm sure they do too, but especially the social media discourse around,
Yeah, yeah.
therapy
So
discourse. It's like this, you have to be completely autonomous and self-sufficient and meet all your own needs, like be your own best friend and all this shit.
yeah. Whereas if like, to the extent that therapy, like couples therapy, which I have found helpful with my partner, like if therapy helps us like get along in the relationships that we have to have in the world, like, okay, great. But if there's an unstated because insane ideal of satisfying all of my emotional needs, Brad Gooch has that book from the 90s, Finding the Boyfriend Within, which is like, okay, well, am I going to find my job within? Am I going to find my house within? Like some things I actually need from the world, right?
Or
I
need
need
from
some,
other, yeah,
yeah, external inputs.
right.
And like, oh, are you just having dinner because you're hungry and you're seeing friends because you're lonely? Yeah, yeah, I'm seeing my friends because I'm lonely. Okay.
Right. I thought this was really interesting. This idea of like people socializing or going out to like avoid themselves, and like that the implicit idea here is that like there's something better or something deeper about being able to be alone or be, and you hear people say this now too. But they're at the same time, we're also like moralizing about everyone being alone too much, and like no one leaves the house, and we're all just on our couch, streaming and ordering DoorDash and
Right.
all of that.
There's
Yeah, the frictionless, everyone's moralizing about the frictionless existence. We should go out and be uncomfortable and be around people.
like, yeah,
So what do we think about this? Like which is better? Should we be
there's
alone or should we be
there's doubly like, so within like the framework of the article, like the 70s, there's this competition between a kind of therapeutic ideal of the person who is able to be at home alone, not feel compelled to go out, versus like the pleasure of seeing and being seen. So like that's one way of imagining the pleasure of going out, that like you're on this stage, like the fun of this kind of self-display. But there's also a sense that you're going out in order to find a romantic partner, and that maybe you're going out all the time. On the one hand, you're doing that in order to find a romantic or sexual partner, but you're so addicted to the pleasure of going out that you're having trouble connecting with someone. So like a number of
right?
the people interviewed are saying like, what I would really like to do is to be at home in bed watching Saturday Night Live with my lover, but I haven't yet found that person, or I'm addicted to going out. So yeah, on the one hand, there's a couple of competing fantasies of like the autonomous person who is like fine being alone, the person who's like in bed watching SNL with their lover. And it's crazy that already in 78, like that could be the like, I've given up on having a hot gay life, so I'm just eating takeout
Right.
in bed watching SNL. And that's still what you do when you're ready to get fat with your boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then also there's this sense that like, yeah, now we have, I don't know since when, but a kind of fear like, oh, no one is going out anymore. And so wasn't there something better when people felt compelled to go out, either to like display themselves and get attention, or maybe to look for a romantic partner? Because now, like, I mean, certainly thinking about my eras of singleness, being like on the couch for several hours with like Grindr watching TV is surely worse than, at least for the bar, you have to get dressed up.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the, as with a lot of gay discourses that might have appeared in Christopher Street and that we still see recurring today, is that almost all the different perspectives people have, even though they're opposite, are true at different times in your own experience, in your own journey, like depending on where you are at the moment. It's absolutely true that you can, done this myself, that you can go out all the time just because your life feels like lonely and empty, or because you don't have anything else to do like that. And that doesn't, and that can be true and not be a bad thing or not. And then other times there's nothing wrong with going out. There's not, you may not even think like, oh, I'm trying to avoid it or it's bad for me, but you're in a period where you're trying to read or you're trying to like get enough sleep and not be hungover all the time and things like that. Where some of this, I kind of go through phases of like all of these things, or I talk to other people who do as well, and it's just like, oh, I'm enjoying my antisocial era and just being on the couch and cooking, and you can kind of lean into any of those phases, and like pretty soon you lose the desire to go out at all, or like
Yeah, I mean, I guess biographically, any of these activities are only fun on the condition that I could do the opposite. So, like, one of the big, like, I am an extremely stay-at-home person. My life is basically sitting in rooms reading. So you would think that, like during COVID, I would have been among the best equipped people to deal with like lockdown. I was living in France at the time, but I absolutely collapsed. I couldn't handle it because me staying at home depends on something is happening outside and I'm not taking part in it. Right. And I'm like, oh, it's so sweet. Thank you for inviting me to your birthday. I cannot make it, sadly. But when there are no things.
So did you develop every night fever during COVID? Is that what you're saying?
Right. So, I mean, well, I got a divorce during COVID. Is what happened.
Well, so yeah, well, same. Like, I thought the same thing. I thought, COVID starts happening, it hits, like classes get canceled. I'm writing my dissertation, like teaching. I'm just like, yes, like this is exactly what I wanted to happen. I'm going to get a free year of no teaching or just teaching online. And I was collapsed in a few months, and within a few months after that I came out, so like it totally
2020 broke some girls. Like Macron, within a few weeks of COVID starting, was like, now is a good time to brush up on your German and your piano. He was very like Asian tiger mom about it. And yeah, that was not my experience. But yeah, the pleasure, how to put it, going out, whether it's to be seen, like, oh, people know that I'm hot, or people know that I'm a regular here, or it's to like try to get some. That it's fun when you can tell yourself that you could not do it. Like you would also be happy staying at home, and staying at home feels fine if you think that you could go out and be hot. But if you're staying at home because no one would want to fuck you if you left the house.
Yes. Or if you're a Reddit incel, or you're a chud and you're just like, I would go out if I wasn't terrified of human contact.
Yeah. I mean, I also wonder, have we always had like a pretty high and constant level of people who are not going out and either having to like enchant it quirkily with like, millennials hate going out, or who are like desperately unhappy, but we just haven't heard from them because, prior to the Reddit, we didn't have access to the interior lives of people who were staying at home. Whereas now, if you look on like the gay forums on Reddit, you would think that gay people are at home, single, miserable.
Right. Yeah, miserable, ugly, have no self-confidence. Well, the thing that I find so ironic about that is that, and this is one of the sources of whether it's let's just keep it focused on the Reddit people and the like, I would never go out because I don't belong there. I'm just going to be ignored and I'm invisible and blah, blah, blah. The thing about going out is that like versus even Grindr or like meeting someone on a dating app, going out it's like the best odds for people who are kind of disadvantaged. Whether it's in age or looks or whatever. Like that is where people
David
fuck out of
Sishin
their
says
league.
ugly people go out. That's actually the best place for you.
Yeah. Ugly people go out. Ugly people like...
You won't take good pics at home, ugly people.
Ugly people like make out with hot people. Ugly people get invited to after parties. Like that all happens. Like,
hot people get tired and confused around 2 a.m. They don't know. They don't know what's happening.
People are fucked up and they don't know what you look like.
Are you currently, I don't know how autobiographical you want to get, but I have not been a goer outer in many years. So like, right after college, like living in Paris, I would like go to the Marais, not every night of the week, but like, a couple times a week. But that's been a long time. You are currently, a goer outer? You are...
So I don't I no longer have every night fever like I have. Well, first of all, let's just say like as much as things are the same between this article and now, like times are different. There's not anywhere to go out every night. You still hear that, when you talk to people who have been, older guys who have been around Boston for decades. They're just like talking about how many bars and clubs there used to be, and like there used to be something to do every night.
In this Michael Musto thing, what's crazy is like, not that there were a bunch of bars and clubs in New York, okay, where you could go out every night of the week, but there's this one in Buffalo, which has this like stupid name. What is
The hibachi room.
the hibachi room? Which, as a rice queen, I'm very intrigued by it. Sounds like Benihana is a gay club.
So it eventually, I found something online about it. It was shut down like recently, but it was it had long had another name.
Okay,
But anyway,
but Buffalo had some hot.
yeah, right. I mean, Buffalo had there's a like map on like historic map online of like all the like queer spots in Buffalo, which is insane.
Okay, but you could not go out now in Boston every night if you wanted to. You're saying.
No, like there are gay bars open every night of the week, but they're not, there's somewhere to go, but you're not missing anything. It's not like a happening thing. But yeah, okay. So you asked me like my experience. So obviously my experience is a little weird since I came out in my 30s as a, fully formed adult. And I took to going out very quickly and more effortlessly than I would have thought for someone who was, much like you, was like an academic, like a inside books person, and considered myself socially awkward. I don't know. There was just something that I like really liked about it. Maybe it was the release from my old life, the contrast with it, the freedom and physicality of it versus.
Were you already working out, or were you like schlumpy? Did you gain or lose weight during COVID? Because that's also an important, like people who had like the COVID, I'm going to get hot, and then people who, sort of collapsed into fatness during.
I think I initially gained weight like the first few months, and then 2021 is the downhill, like where I started simultaneously like getting fitter and also coming out. But
that's smart to pair those.
At
You don't
first, I would say like the first, pretty quickly, at first, I was nowhere near, for a couple of years, I was like nowhere near what I look like now, but
it was already fun. Going out was already fun, even when you didn't have.
Well, that's the thing is like I expected, like I think I had this internal narrative of like I'm already too old, like I'm not, I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect much, and like I was surprised. I was like, it doesn't matter what I look like, nobody cares.
You're in great company, because I'm sure like we have somehow talked about this, but like, Michael Denny didn't come out until 30, George Tambolian until like his late 30s, and both of them in their diaries are like, oh my God, I'm too old, and
Right.
I'm already not hot. I squandered my youth, and then they come to New York, and it turns out they can have plenty of sex. It's fine.
Right. Yeah. Like I love that thread in Stambolian, and he talks, I think in one of the interviews, he talks about like, having an apprehension about Fire Island and like going there and realizing that it's kind of, it doesn't matter. Like your like age doesn't matter. And that's all, I had that same thing about, Provincetown. Like, even though I like was used to going out, I still kind of viewed like going to New York or going to P-Town as like this next level of I was afraid of. And then until I got there and I was like, who cares? Of course, also like I was doing everything I could to like be the equal of those people or to fit in. But yeah,
you're on preventative Botox.
I had also never really done drugs until that. Well, like I was never a big drinker.
Well, because you went to like Bible college, right? I mean,
like I didn't really drink in college, or wasn't allowed to. I drank like in my adult life, but I just never had a going out phase or a like getting wasted phase. I had been like blackout drunk maybe 3 times in my life before I was 30, but I think it was that. Like, I think it was just kind of a mixture of things, like the getting to be around people in a way that I could be close to them and be, in a group or be in a social setting and not have to talk. Like that was that I like, there's a surprising thing about like nowadays when I go to, I try to be more normal now. I'd like do more like normal social things and not only go out, but when I'm at like a house party too long or somebody's birthday and I'm just like having to talk, I'm just like, okay, it is time to go to the club. So no one can hear.
Well, so it's true. And this is like to the Bersani point of this impersonal intimacy that like, I guess in a way, this is a gays or chosen family thing, because I mean, family sucks, but I guess what's great in quotes about family is you don't have to like have anything to talk to them about. Like, you're connected to them regardless of whether or not you really have any interest in
Hmm.
common.
Yeah.
And there's something about like it, it's good that we have this through fucking, but if you're just like meeting people like sexually on the apps and like that's your connection to the people, there's something kind of, I don't know, limited about that. But that like dancing, like going to the club, like there are these ways where like people who actually have very little in common with you and you could not maybe sustain a conversation with.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I was unable to meet anyone through Hinge or Tinder. I don't know what your experience on like the dating apps has been, but I hate them. I've made
Oh,
multiple friends through Grinder, and then like I met my partner like in real life. But I feel like if you fuck someone or you're like in a same physical space with someone, like your conversation can come up like surprisingly like in a kind of secondary way. But like if the emphasis is on we have to find out what's in common with us through talking, that's actually a terrible
horrible.
way to meet
The
people.
worst. Yeah. It's horrible. No, no, same. Like it's kind of, I've even noted that like at times where I was like feeling like I should go out less or like it's ruining my sleep or I shouldn't be doing drugs this much or like things like that where like there's good reasons not to do it. That also that like that is when I like my social circle expands. It's like when I meet people and when I go to after parties and like that's when I like actually I am in the headspace to like relax and forget about everything and like actually focus on other people and kind of like, I don't know how strongly I believe this, but I kind of feel somebody you meet in that context is like if you're doing that and you meet someone in that context, you kind of already know that they're a person like you versus if they're just a rando from Hinge that, has no connection to the gay world at all and you haven't seen kind of them. People don't have to like, do anything in particular. They don't have to love going out, but I consider it a red flag if somebody is like unknown and like has no connection to the gay social world.
Well, and there's something so pleasurable and fun about a good friend and now like co-author of a few things. Like what 5 years ago, like sleeping with him, and then I see like his books on the bedside table. I'm like, oh, it's so interesting that like you're reading Barton and Foucault, and like we can talk about this. But if I had met him like on an app where like the profile says I'm into Barton Foucault, I'm like fuck you, I
Yeah,
don't want
100%. Right.
like
Yeah.
that's disgusting. You should kill
Right.
yourself.
Yes. Right.
But okay, but you have felt what like some people in the essay describe as a kind of ambivalence about going out, or oh, I shouldn't be going out so much because this is preventing me from doing what?
Not necessarily more like I am generally not moralistic about it. I don't tell myself no. If I wanted to, I would. It's more like it's probably more that I just got tired of it and it's Boston. So it's eventually, where even New York, like the last couple of years that I've gone more often, like often enough to that even the New York stuff starts to feel familiar. And I don't know. It has real downsides. Like if you do feel, if you do drugs, you're not hungover at least, but like you sleep horribly and like feel terrible for days sometimes, or like, so it has a cost for sure.
What are
And
you
then
doing, David? What's your drug stat?
let's not put that on the record.
I could, my own, like, I take collagen in the morning and then I'm on kratom and then a weed gummy before bed. I'm a California mom.
But yeah, but anyway, and like in that interferes with doing well at work or like working out regularly or, if I want to write anything or like, which I've been, the last 5 years, like trying to, I gotta let myself not do it for a while, but I've been trying to, get to the point where I can. And
There is something a bit,
you just got to focus sometimes.
to think of the great like novelistic expression of this, which comes out the same year, Dancer from the Dance, where real life Andrew Holleran, Eric Garber, is like an Ivy Leaguer from a nice WASP family who is like working as a cater waiter for several years in New York, kind of gathering material for the novel while partying all the time. And then the main character of the novel, Malone, is like not writing. It's from like the same. Is this from the same kind of background, like a wealthy Ivy Leaguer, but like throws it all away to just be a partier. And so in some way, the novel is like the fantasy of someone who's like partying, but also trying to write and have like these serious ambitions. But like, what if I could just be totally hedonistic? What would that be like? I mean, I think that tension between like the author's own way of life and the kind of wish, the expression of a desire, is part of what makes the novel fun. It's sort of the opposite of like Halloran loved Proust, and Remembrance of Things Past is about the main character Marcel learning to become a writer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Whereas like Malone is just like, I'm going to party and then I'm going to get too old and I'm going to die.
I'm going to gradually. Well, he becomes unemployable, or like I had to read it several times over several years to stop identifying with it so much, or to stop, because I think like I read it as the setup was very similar to what I was going through. Like it's, somebody who kind of comes
and
to it.
if you were Malone's age, you'd be dead by now.
Yeah, somebody who's comes to it kind of late, who kind of sets out to like make themselves understand this world, totally give themselves over to it. And then, so I had that moment of really depression almost, is like, am I Malone? Am I stuck in this world? And it was never because I didn't like it or I was jaded about it. It was more just because, or I worried that like it's really easy to, or it's possible to like actually get stuck in it, or to atrophy so much, or to kind of lose your connection with the outside world and the discipline that you have to like.
So it's interesting that this is like a perennial thing, whether it's in the Musto or Halloran or like your experience today. And then like, I don't know what, if any, kind of like literary or cultural artifacts from like our moment speak to this, but I think it's a perennial concern that a lot of gay guys have, that like the world of going out at whatever age you're into it is so seductive, exciting, that you might enter it and not be able to leave. You might not be able to leave in time. It might prevent you from focusing on a career or a partner or whatever. And I guess maybe like I wasn't hot enough in like my early 20s for that to be a concern, or I'm just like very like, I very much need a man. So I've like never been single for any length of time. There was never like a question of like, oh, am I going to spend too much time going out and being hot, that I don't have someone to take care of me, because someone has to take care of me. It seems like a central concern maybe of gay writing in the late 70s. And it's still like an existential concern, I feel like, for a lot of gay guys. But it doesn't seem like, I don't know what media.
Yeah. Is it though? Like, is it a fear of missing something, or is it like that it's empty and shallow? Like, I think that's what I hear people say more, is that like they're doing it because it's the easy thing to do, or it's the default, and it's as opposed to doing something harder, like doing, whether it's working on a career, accomplishing something, or developing relationships with, either a partner, or like as if there's something fundamentally like shallow, and like it atrophies it's a kind of like instant gratification, or like it atrophies your ability to connect or to do something more that takes more effort.
I feel like there's maybe nothing as good as Dancer from the Dance to illustrate like these current imagined trade-offs. But like, I think we still live within this fantasy that there are these opposing ways of life. Yeah, Dancer, there's this wonderful fantasia where for a few pages, the Malone like goes off with this like Italian American guy, and they're like living in an abandoned loft for a few months in this kind of urban idyll.
Mm-hmm.
And then Malone gets bored and fucks someone who looks exactly like his boyfriend, just to do it. Then throughout the novel, like characters make fun of the idea of like going off to suburban New Jersey with your partner and like opening up a flower shop. And it's like, either you live in this world of like intense going out all the time, where you're nominally searching for love, but actually you're more into just like the social pleasure of going out, or you disappear into the dyad. I feel like that's just like not like,
yeah, it's not real. Like, and I don't think it was, this is what I wonder, like reading Dancer for the Dance is like, I don't think that was real even then. Like, I don't think that was a binary, choice. I think there was a lot of discourse about it. A lot of people, like, talked about that. Like you find a lover and you disappear, like whatever. And I'm sure that happens, like people in that era of like all of that being new and it being like this kind of completely, enclosed, underworld, the way it is in Dancer from the Dance, like people kind of, show up and fall into it for a few years and then they kind of get their life together and, move on. I'm sure that happens. But like, I don't know that it was ever this like binary thing, like where you're either a person who goes out all the time or you're like coupled up in Westchester running a business or what.
But somehow I feel like, yeah, I have not seen like, I don't know, in the last generation, some like great gay novel or film or whatever. Maybe we just have some dumb tweets that illustrate this sense of a dichotomy, though. That like if I'm living with my partner in the suburbs, I imagine and look down on like the scene gays who are living this like shallow, narcissistic, sex obsessed existence. Or if I'm like this, yeah, the Stephen Phillips Horse thing about like peak gay sluttiness, where it's imagining participation in that is being driven by like a fear of missing out. Yeah, this seems to neglect like many normal people are in basically monogamous relationship, but sometimes like going out and fucking people and like enjoy spending time at home, but also go to the club sometimes. But yeah, there seems like a long-standing wish to imagine a very strong polarity and tension between like the compulsion to go out to see and be seen, and then like, oh, but couldn't I escape with my lover to Connecticut or New Jersey and never be seen again?
Mm-hmm. Right, because it's going out as like it's taxing, like it's tiring, it's expensive. You have to look good, which means you have to like have clothes and work out, and or you don't have to do those things, but most people.
There's that ugly guy in the Musto essay who is a regular, who is like made fun of by the waiter, and I thought, good for her.
What do they say he's ugly?
Did they say? Yeah, well, he's somehow like nebbishy. Where does this? One regular barefoot boy says he knows going out may be bad for him in the long run. David, a waiter there, points to him with a slight sneer as he passes. He belongs to a certain type that always comes here. He never buys drinks. He looks like a total nudnik, and he usually goes home alone. He never even checks his coat.
Well, this is like very, this is something I've thought about too. Like there's always these characters, like, and they're usually older men that like are everywhere. Like they're always out. Sometimes they're like always super drunk, or they're like, there's one that I've seen at a bar in Boston that's like he's a really like flamboyant dancer, like super into dancing, and like you'd think he's like on Molly or something, but I don't think he is. I think that's just what he likes.
He just has that pre-dementia.
That's just what he likes to do. So that's kind of how I interpreted this. Is like
I can't wait to be one of these.
Yeah, I think
community fixture.
I think about that. But there's also, I saw that kind of from working at a gay bar in Boston that has like a lot of overlapping gay, it's kind of, there's a lot of overlapping gay communities that go to it. It has like a lot of different stuff. It's kind of, it's community center ish in a way that that exposed me to like a kind of whole world of guys who are like quite a bit older than me, but have just this very vibrant community, like whether they have partners or not, and like of socializing and having dinner and going to the cabaret or going to the dance floor sometimes, or and that's, I don't know, some of that has made me like more, and then of course seeing guys my age that are married, or and that they are still together as a couple, like a part of the scene, or they like host things, or that there's all kinds of stances toward how much you participate in the gay public, and it's not this binary of either you do it or you don't, or that it means anything in particular if you do.
Something about like being, I don't know, a young gay person, which like a number of people being, I mean, Musto himself he's like 23, and then a number of, like, he's interviewing a fellow Columbia student. The need to define yourself in opposition or through participation in some like gay scene that you maybe know like barely anything about. I mean, I wonder, like, I have no sense of what it's like to be like a gay social media personality. Like, I wonder, like, for us, I mean, there's both like actual going out, and then I don't know, if I were like a 21-year-old gay guy, would I think like, if you're not on gay Twitter, you're no one. If
Yeah.
you're not posting, like, yeah, would we have now the essay both about like, forget peak gay sluttiness, but like too much gay posting? Like, is that
I mean,
the
yeah, I mean that would be the discourse now. Like, are you addicted to social media, or like do you have yeah, I don't know. I think there's like everyone can kind of be like this, but I think definitely like people in their mid-20s and down, this thing where they are kind of all just creators by default. It's more likely than not that they, whether it's a hobby or it's being hot or whatever, that they post something, they feel like
they've
they're,
sold whole pics?
for feet pics.
They bought a ring light for feet pics, even if, it never worked out.
Well, feet,
It's hard to
feet
like
is
feet, you
it
gotta
is the
think about the
ultimate
angles.
grift, because it's like you can sell your feet without, you can post feet on Instagram. Like, it's a non-sexual thing. It's the only fetish that's like allowed to be shown.
Conversely, I felt really bad in recent months. So I am an aficionado of LPSG and Mail General. And I also, I don't spend much time on, but I enjoy that it exists, WikiFeet, which, yeah. So like any celebrity, however minor, if they have been at the beach or they've been shoeless, there's some feet photos that are on WikiFeet. So if you're interested in anyone, their feet are there. But now with AI, you can just generate. So like last year, there were these infamous Jacob Elordi foot pics where he's doing kind of findom adjacent stuff. He's like,
Mhm.
he has his shoe off. He's got his foot in the air. He's getting the middle finger. AI generated. So that means that the honest, hardworking people who had been putting in the hours to put together the feet pick archive, with real foot
Yeah,
picks.
or like the people that used to, those photos that used to be on the internet where you could find like celebrities' faces photoshopped onto like porn bodies, and they were almost never good, but every
Yeah,
now
yeah.
and then they
People worked
were,
really
and like,
hard on those.
yeah,
Yeah, that was a
it's a
crap.
lost art, I'm sure.
There were some people on Nifty, which I always thought was corny, but now I kind of miss, who, like, when they would write an erotic story on nifty.org, would have celebrity photos to show you, like, oh, these characters, here are some
This is
celebrities
who
who
would play
look like
them.
them. Or if we were doing a movie version of my erotic story, yeah, this is who it would cast. And now it's just AI, no thank
Well,
you.
as that gets more, as that takes over the world, then the truly imaginary world of the written word will become, maybe the stories on Nifty will become even more important.
Nifty will be even more important. Going out will be even more important. My friend, who was like the biggest sort of going out all the time slut, claims that he can tell that like Zoomers have been under socialized since COVID, that they're very bad at going to gay bars, that they don't know how to flirt, that it's like become more difficult to cruise people. He may also, he smokes cigarettes, so he may be just, tapping out of that market. But I would love for some anthropologists to be telling us, like, have things really changed? Are people worse at going out? Are they going out really less?
I don't know. Like, Zoomers as a generation is different than, I don't know. I feel like gay boys are kind of, always a little bit prodigious about it. Like, they find it.
Certainly the ones that one meets, the most hopeless cases,
Yeah,
they are
right.
they are stuck at home. We don't know.
Well, I see no sign that they are bad at it, or, giving up on it.
I don't think we've talked about this. I am not like a Zoomer lover, but my lover is a Zoomer. Are you? What is your age range?
Is he, how old is Ben? Is
He is 28 years
he, oh,
old,
okay.
and I am 29.
You're 29.
I'm, but do you remember Streetcar Named Desire? Blanche Dubois, I only recently learned, is 36 in that play.
Never seen it. I
Never
didn't.
see. You're a Southern woman. How can it be that you haven't? I saw that at age 12 with my mother.
Yeah, I knew knew the title of it maybe, but that was about it.
Uh,
My situationship is 96, so he's turning 30 this year. But
Okay, so I mean, older than mine, and soon. Look, I think there are some Gen Alphas who are already 18, and you could be old enough to be their dad. That's great.
yeah, but well, that's the thing too, is that they're very into the daddy thing, like even if they don't call you that. But to them, like I'm big and muscular, and like they're into that. Like, so it's you know,
And you have like, do you have a bed
yeah,
frame,
yeah,
right?
of course,
So you're my college ex, continues to date guys who are college age, although they often are not going to college. And I remember a few years ago, he was telling me, like the great thing about these kids is like, I live in a studio apartment. They think I have my shit
right?
together.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly, right.
they're because they're living with their
Yeah,
parents. They
or
don't know.
they're living with their parents, or they're in dorms. So like you have a normal house, you look like an adult who has it put together. Yeah, 100%.
Okay, yes. Now we have now exceeded quite like the
Yes,
scope of the most
but
article, but many
yeah. Well,
important points were raised.
that was exactly what I was hoping for, that we could not talk about it, but spiral into other things.